if you have ever wanted to host open source software on open source deployment infrastructure, a VPS maybe your personal machine, maybe a server that you have in your bedroom, this video is for you. I will be launching Dokploy on a VPS from Hostinger in this video, and then we will be setting up Vendure. And if you don't know Vendure, it is an open source e-commerce platform that you can use to build web shops. I've covered it before on a deployment tutorial on Railway. I'll put a link to that also somewhere in the video description. That is a little bit different because you just click a button and then all the setup happens automatically on Railway, and you get a Vendure backend with an admin dashboard and the storefront. But you are on Railway, which is not open source. It's their proprietary deployment infrastructure. It is great and very easy and very cheap, but it is not open source, and that is where Dokploy comes in handy. So if you want to go fully open source, Dokploy offers the same great user experience when it comes to deployment. You get a very nice user interface here where you have your projects that you can manage and all the different services. Setting up database, Redis, and applications is really easy, as I'll be showing you in this video tutorial exactly how we set up all of this. And it leaves us with a fully working headless version of Vendure. So it doesn't have the storefront, but it has the worker and the server. And when I say it's headless, I mean it doesn't have the storefront, but it is not truly headless because it does have here admin dashboard. So you see this is the API, and if I just add in /dashboard, you'll see here is the admin dashboard. This is where we can set up all of the products we want to be selling. We can look at orders and customers. There's nothing here. This is empty. This is just a setup I had for this demo video. But if we go back here to my blog post, this is the first ever guest write I have on this blog. It is by Martijn from Pinelab. And Pinelab is a company that helps customers implement e-commerce solutions with open source Vendure. And they're changing their deployment infrastructure to be using Dokploy, and Martijn reached out and said, hey, I'm going to write this guide on how to set it up on Dokploy. Do you want to publish it on your blog as a guest write? And I was very happy to accept that, because not only have people requested that from me in the past, but I've also personally wanted to learn how to do Dokploy, and I just never really had the time. So I followed this guide from Martijn, and it's great. But it's a little bit technical, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to do a screen recording of the full setup, so anyone with lesser technical skills can also follow. Just do exactly what I do. So that's what this video is about. Let's get started. This is the article where you'll find all the information, all text that you will need to be copy pasting, all terminal commands, etc., etc. Let's just go through the article together and get it all set up. The first is the prerequisites, which is running VPS with at least 4 GB of RAM, and I'm going to be using one from Hostinger, but you can use whatever provider that you might like. I'll just sign up here for Hostinger with my GitHub account, and then we will be buying the cheapest VPS that they offer, because that should be sufficient for this project. And I think it's about $10 per month. I will be searching for VPS, and that should take me right to where I can buy an instance. I'll select the Netherlands, but you can select anything that's close to you or close to your customers. I'll choose Ubuntu as the operating system, and I know that the version 24 is compatible with Dokploy, so this should be good. Optionally, set a root password, but we are going to be using SSH into the VPS instance with the terminal, so I will probably not be using it, but I keep it anyway. Alright, the KVM1 should be sufficient. It does have 4 GB of RAM, which Martijn wrote were the requirements for their testing at least. And I'll just be buying 1 month because this is a demo instance. I'm going to be throwing it away later, and as you can see, it's just about $10 per month. Other providers might charge differently, but I think this one is about the normal range for monthly VPS, is about $10. Alright, payment is successful, so I should now okay, it's going to take a little while to spin up. I paused the video and now it's there. Every time you log into Hostinger, you'll be prompted with this annoying survey. Just skip it. And we need to set up a SSH key in order to be able to use the terminal to access our VPS instance. So you go to the institutions page and then SSH key, and here you click add one, and they have a little command that if you don't already have an SSH key in your computer, you can create one with this command. So I don't think I have one for this user, so I'll be making one. I'm gonna open up the terminal, and then I simply just paste in this command. And I don't like this email thing, and I found out that you can simply just delete it and it will generate a SSH key perfectly fine without it. So now it's generating it, and then we just need to open up the public key and copy the contents of that one. I just hold Control and click on the public key in my terminal, and then it's opened up in my LibreOffice, and I copy all the contents and put it into the user interface here, and then you just have to name it something so you can remember it. Demo key, click save, and that should be it. Now we have a key in our computer and we have added it to our VPS instance, so they should be able to talk with each other on a secure line. So I'm gonna take the IP address of the VPS instance, and then we will SSH into the with the terminal. So SSH root add and then paste in the IP address. Sorry for the zoom level on the terminal. I know it is a little bit hard to see. And you write yes for this fingerprint question, and then you hit OK, and now we are actually already inside the VPS. Back to the guide, and then we need to install Dokploy. And if we follow the link, there should be always the latest command here. So it is a little bit down the list. Here it is, and there is very little terminal work that we need to do. That is the whole point of Dokploy. So first we install it, and then there's one more thing we have to do in the terminal, but then we don't have to do anything else in the terminal. Then we have beautiful user interface for everything else. It took a while, but eventually we got there. We now have an IP address, which is the same as our VPS, and then a port 3000, and that is where the Dokploy application is accessible. Let's just test out that it works. We will also be adding a domain a little bit later, so we can access it at a proper URL. But for now, we just test that it is here. I create a simple user, and I'm logged in, and everything looks good so far. So now there's one more thing we need to do in the terminal, and that is setting up a little configuration so logs will be deleted because it is not on by default, and your log file can grow out of size. So we just need to sudo su and then open up the nano editor. Just copy this path here, the daemon, and then we need to put in this little configuration part here and save it, and then it should automatically deleting the logs when they grow. That's it. We now have fully completed all terminal work, and Dokploy is installed. Let's add the domain here. So I'm gonna be in my Cloudflare dashboard. You might have something else, but I use Cloudflare for domains. I make a record with the subdomain Dokploy, and then we need the IP address in the target field, and then we need to turn off the proxy. And that's it. We can save, and we should now have a domain for our Dokploy instance. Just copy this to clipboard, hit save. Oh yeah, one more thing. We need to add the domain in the Docker for it to configure it with the Traefik. It will automatically do that if we just set it up here and turn on the HTTP. Let's encrypt, and then we should get the SSL certificate, so we are on a secure line when we exit it from the domain. Yeah. Let's test out that it works. Yeah, so this might happen, and it might take a while for the propagation, but it took actually only 1 minute for me, so it was very fast. And I now have the Dokploy on a proper domain, mydemodomain.site, and with the subdomain Dokploy. That's it. Next up is we're going to be spinning up all the services that Vendure requires, and the first one is a Postgres database. So I'll just follow the link from Martijn's article, and there is a few settings that we need to do, but this is very simple. It's very similar to how you set up database in Railway. The user experience with Dokploy is really simple. and very polished. So here, just like in Railway, you can pre-select some databases, and there is not much manual setup you have to do. I give it a name, I call my database, and then the only other thing we need to do is to set the port of the database. It does kind of show like a default port, but you still have to write it and save it, otherwise it won't work. So the default one is just a placeholder. It's not actually saved. Once we have saved the port on Postgres, then the database is done. There is nothing more we need to do, and we can move on to the next step, which is getting up a Redis, because Vendure also depends on a Redis instance to be able to do queuing and stuff like that. So let's go back over to Dokploy and go back to our project and create a new service. And Redis is also a database, an in-memory database, but it is a database. And I'll just call it Redis and create. And just as for the Postgres, we need to set a port for Redis, and the one in the placeholder is also the one that we're going to be using. It is the standard port that you normally use with Redis in basically all cases. And hit save. That should be it. Now we have 2 out of 4 services done, and we are approaching a working environment for Vendure. Redis completed. So now we want to go over and get some code. Pinelab did a sort of a boilerplate starter that we're going to fork. It has some GitHub workflow configuration that will make deployment easy, but other than that, it's a pretty clean, unmodified Vendure. So I'll just create a fork of that, and then we'll spin it up in VS Code. So just grab the link here, or actually maybe I will just use GitHub Desktop to clone it. Add, clone, and then search for it, something with Dokploy, something with Vendure. Yeah, clone. And let's open it up in VS Code. All right, let's see what we have to do. We need to create an environment file, so a .env file, and we have to copy all this content here and then make a few changes to personalize it. So I'll just create the .env file, paste in all the content, and let's see what we need to change here. So there is some fields for the Redis and Postgres that we need to copy from our online instance. So that will be the password is one of them. Copy to clipboard, back into VS Code, and paste it in on Redis password. And then we need the external host, so we'll copy that one as well. Back into VS Code and put it on the Redis host. Yep, then there is a few items for the Postgres database. So let's just exit the Redis service and go to our Postgres. And we will need the password. And that should be DB password. All right, let's see. We'll take the external host so we can connect from our local environment, put it in there. And then I believe the DB name and username, let's see, they are Postgres. And the database name is also Postgres. And the port looks right to me. Schema, probably public. I don't think it says in the interface, but it is usually always public. So let's just try that. All right, so next up is installing the dependencies for the project. I'm gonna be doing that. So let's go into the Vendure folder and run the npm CI. It's important that you use the CI because the log file contains some specific versions that we need for this installation. So don't use npm install, use npm CI. And this will take a little while. Maybe I should speed up the video. Oh yeah, we can also replace our IP address now that we are added here. So the one from the Redis host is exactly the one from our VPS, and we can just add it down here. Okay, dependencies are installed, looks good. The next is to build with Vite, so compiling the code basically. And I sped it up. It will take a long time, but it is done now. And then let's try to run the server. When we run the server, if we can log in, that means that we are connected to the online database, and that means that everything was right. But I got an error here, and I think because the npx Vite is missing TSC, this is a TypeScript compilation thing, so I'll just run the build command. If you see this error, just run the build command npm run build, and it will run both TSC and the Vite build command, and then it should be fine. Let's try to run the server now. See here, it is spinning up, and it will take a little while, but here we have it. And the localhost 3000/dashboard is the one that we want to test. If we can log in, that means that everything in the cloud is working as it should. Let's find the credentials. It is super admin and password is super admin, but of course you can change it to something else if you want something more secure. All right, this is all green because we are logged in. That means that the database has been seeded and everything is working in the cloud as expected. Next up is that we need to push the source code into the cloud so we can actually create the Redis instances. And to do that, we'll be using Docker Hub for building it. And there's a few credentials we need for that. So if you go over to Docker Hub and sign up, or sign in if you already have a user, then we need to make a personal access token, and we need to add that to our GitHub account, because then the GitHub Actions will enable us to build it on the Docker Hub. So you go to personal access token, and then you generate a new token, give it whatever description, and we need to give it full permission. So read, write, delete, generate it, and then we can copy it to clipboard. We're also going to need our username. You can see it at the end of the command above, but we just need the access token for now, and then I'll just remember my username. Let's find the repository that we forked just a minute ago. It is something with Dokplay. Yeah, it must be this one. And then we need to find the actions secret section in GitHub. It is under settings. And then it is secrets and variables and actions, and it is repository secrets that we need to add. So let's go in here, and I'll paste in the Docker Hub access token key, and then we need the key name for the correct variable name. Let's paste it in here, Docker Hub token, and add it. Then we need 3 more, and one was the username. I remember my username, it is rpulse. And then we need the name of the variable is Docker Hub username. Yeah, and add this one. Then we need 2 more things, and that is the deploy webhook URLs for each of the Vendure instances, one for the server and one for the worker. And we don't have them yet because they're not created. So let's just go in and create them, but not fully set them up yet. So I'll create one here, and I'll just call it worker, and then the application name will be Vendure worker. So I like it that way. So that's one. And then we need one more. We need the server. Just create that one, and I'll just call it server. Yeah. Then we can get the webhook deploy URL. So if you go into this one and go to the deploy tab, then there is a URL that you can copy. And we'll need to do that for both of them. So copy this one to clipboard and head back over to GitHub secrets, paste it in here, and that is the Vendure API is the one that is the server instance. Then we're going to add one more, and that will be the worker. Go back to our application and worker, deployments, copy the URL. That's it. We now have done all the setup in GitHub. We do need to enable actions. When you fork repository, the actions is turned off for some reason. So it says, yeah, workflows aren't being run. So you have to enable it manually. So, but now it's enabled, and now we should be able to push some code, and that should trigger the whole workflow. Let's look what they made here. The workflow is described in build and deploy YML, and you can see here it depends on some of these secrets that we just added. Secrets, just Docker Hub username, and these webhook URLs. So this is the file that ensures that when we push code, it starts a build on Docker Hub, and eventually it pushes it to our Dokploy instance. So I'll just do a commit with a space in the README to trigger build, and then hopefully everything will be working. We'll see that immediately in the GitHub Actions tab if everything is right. So I'll just write trigger build here and then push it. Let's head back over to GitHub. And nothing yet. Let's try to refresh the page and see. Yeah, so it is now building. And if we did everything right, this should turn green at some point. It does take a long time. I waited 13 minutes, but we see here it built and pushed, so everything looks good so far. We can see at Docker Hub that it created something over here, so that is also a good sign that the image is actually hosted, and we can then pull the image from our Vendure services to deploy the actual application. And to do that, we'll just follow these steps from the guide. It is pretty simple. We will go into the server one first, and we need to set the environment variables that we also did before. So locally, we can just copy them from our local, and then I believe there's a few changes we need to make here as well. The domain looks like something we could change because your domain.io is not my domain, at least. Anything else? It looks fine. Let's add the record for this one. So we go back over to Cloudflare and add another record here, and that one I'll call Vendure. And the target is the same. It's the IP address of our VPS, and we turn off proxy and hit save. And that should be it. Let's copy it to clipboard and then paste it in here, and copy the full domain to clipboard. Gonna hit save. All right, I think that's good. Let's see what else we have to do. Then we have to create a volume, and I'll just copy the name of the volume to clipboard, go to the advanced tab, scroll all the way down, add volume, and it has to be a volume mount. We put in the name, and then I'll copy the path as well here. Paste that in. We're almost there. Then there is a run command we need to set, and it is for the server. So npm run start server. Paste that in. Then let's add the domain. And I believe it's just adding the domain here and turning on HTTPS and with Let's Encrypt, of course. That should be it. It might take a little while. You see the validation is yellow, so it means that it's not ready yet, but we'll check it later. Then we need to set up the connecting our Dokploy with the Docker Hub image. So we need to copy the image name, and it is here in the corner. That is the name of the image, and then we need to add a tag latest, so we always get the latest version. So every time there's a new build, this one will pull the latest one. That should be it. Let's try to hit the deploy button. Yeah, so it is running, and it might take a while, but in the meantime we can set up the other instance, so the Vendure worker. Let's go back out to the project, find the worker, and it is almost exactly the same. So I still have the image name on clipboard, so let's just set up the Docker Hub right now, paste it in, and latest. Yeah. Then all the variables Just copy all of them, paste in the domain, and save. Then the volume and the run commands. Let's scroll down here and see. So this one is a little bit different. It is just start worker instead of start server. Paste it in, save, and then the volume is exactly the same. So it's a volume mount, and the name is Vendure assets, and it is the same path as before. Yeah, that should be it. Let's try to deploy and see how things goes. And for some reason, this one just completed immediately. I don't know how that's possible, but it is green already and it says it's done. Let's go back to the server. The server is the one that is hosting our dashboard. That's also why we gave it the domain, so we can access it in the URL. And the domain is now ready. So let's just check here. This is a good sign, the 4.4, because we need to add the /dashboard to get the actual dashboard. Otherwise, we just hit the API. All right, this one looks like we have a fully working Vendure hosted on our domain, on managed by Dokploy, on our VPS, with both a database, a Redis, and a worker. Okay, I will end the tutorial right here. We successfully deployed Vendure backend on Dokploy on a VPS. And if you want to take it one step further, the guide itself does have a little bit more to it. So Martijn wrote a few sections about load testing, health checks, resource allocation, security, backups. And the load testing, I think, is quite interesting. So they did tests with 240 orders per minute, which is a lot, and they saw very little response time. So I think that in most cases, this single VPS with very limited resources will be just fine. But if you wanna get the most value out of your money, there is here a section about how you most efficiently allocate the server resources. So which part of the application should have what resources available to get the best possible performance. But in my personal opinion, I think if you exceed the capabilities of this server, that means you have quite a lot of traffic. And if you have quite a lot of traffic, hopefully you're also selling some products and making some money, and then cranking up the VPS instance to something more powerful shouldn't be an issue. There is also a section about scaling up here. So if you, and I hope you do, I hope you really create a successful business and start to make money and get into problems with too much traffic, so you actually have to scale up. But then this guide has got you covered. There is a section about that. Also backup, security. It is really fully thought through end to end. So that should be everything that you need. That's gonna be all for now. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.